An exchange rate indicates how many units of the price currency are needed to purchase 1 unit of the base currency. An example is this. That is 50 Nigerian naira per Ghanaian cedis. This Ghanaian cedis here is the base currency, and this Nigerian naira here is the price currency. To purchase 1 unit of the base currency, in this case it is Ghanaian cedis, you need 50 units of the Nigerian naira. An exchange rate is the price of the base currency expressed in terms of the price currency. So to purchase this base currency, in this case Ghanaian cedis, how much of the price currency do you need? It is also worth noting that an exchange rate is quoted as the price currency against the base currency. If the exchange rate moves from 50 Nigerian naira per Ghanaian cedis to, let's say, 40 Nigerian naira per Ghanaian cedis. Here, the Nigerian naira has appreciated and the Ghanaian cedis has depreciated. The big question here is why. Before now, we need more units of Nigerian naira to purchase 1 unit of Ghanaian cedis, but now we need fewer Nigerian naira to purchase the same 1 unit of Ghanaian cedis. So that implies that the Nigerian naira has appreciated. It is also worth noting that an exchange rate agreed today is considered a spot exchange rate if the currency is settled within 2 business days. Settlement implies that we are dealing with the actual transfer of funds. It is worth noting that this T+2, which is today, plus 2 business day, applies to all currencies except when dealing with Canadian dollar against US dollar. So Canadian dollar against US dollar is the exception to this rule, and this currency pair settles in 1 day. So if we agree on the exchange rate today, but the transaction happens within 2 business days, then we are still dealing with a spot transaction. Settlements beyond T+2 are classified as forward transactions. A cross rate is the exchange rate between 2 currencies derived from their individual exchange rate with a third currency. Cross rates are commonly calculated when a direct quote between 2 currencies is unavailable. So that we are all on the same page on what is going on here, imagine I am interested in this quote A per 1 unit of C, but unfortunately, quote A per 1 unit of C is unavailable, but the dealer quoted quote A per 1 unit of B, and quote B per 1 unit of C. I can combine these two codes together to get this cross rate. So code A per 1 unit of C would be equal to this, which is A divided by a question mark, then times a question mark divided by C. So the third currency here is currency B. So I can change this to B, and I can also change this to B. So this cancels this, and I will end up having A per 1 unit of C. But my aim is not to cancel them out. My aim is only to show us that you will end up having this rate. So this times this would give us this cross rate. Now, let us assume that you are interested in computing this cross rate A per 1 unit of C. Unfortunately for you, the dealer quoted A per 1 unit of B, but unfortunately for you, this quote is unavailable, but the dealer quoted C per 1 unit of B. It is worth noting that this quote is not the same as what you need here, which is B per 1 unit of C. So what can you do? This quote that is available, you can find the reciprocal of this quote. So the reciprocal of this quote here would give you this. So once you have this, you can insert it here. Now assume that this quote is available, but unfortunately this quote is unavailable. So what you have available is, let's say, B per 1 unit of A. To compute this cross rate, what can you do? You will have to find the reciprocal of this. So upon finding the reciprocal, A per 1 unit of B can then be inserted here. So this times this will give us this cross rate. To connect what we discussed on the previous slide to a practical example, imagine we are interested in computing this cross rate, that is euro per 1 unit of Canadian dollar. So that would be euro divided by a question mark. The euro is coming from here, then times a question mark divided by Canadian dollar. So the third currency is US dollars. So I can easily change these question marks to US dollars. As said earlier, my aim is not to cancel out this third currency. So I believe that we should agree with this. So if these two codes are available, so we have euro per US dollar. So that's this euro per US dollar is 1.2500 times, we have this quote also, which is US dollars per Canadian dollar, and that is 1.1500. So if you solve for this, I expect you to have this. So this implies that 1 Canadian dollar is equal to 1.4375 euros. Let us look at another example. Here we have available Canadian dollar per US dollar and South African rand per US dollar. But the exchange rate we need, that is South African rand per Canadian dollar, is not available. But fortunately for us, we can compute this using these two exchange rates. So let's get started. South African rand per Canadian dollar will be equal to this South African rand divided by a question mark, or we could simply say the third currency, times a question mark divided by Canadian dollar. The third currency here is obvious, is the US dollar. So I can change this to US dollar. I can also change this to US dollar. Do we have this exchange rate available? South African rand per US dollar? Yes, we do. This exchange rate is available. Do we have US dollar per Canadian dollar? Unfortunately, no. So that implies that we need to find the inverse of this quote that is available in order to get this. So the inverse will be 1 over the Canadian dollar per US dollar. So let's assume that South African rand per US dollar is this. So that is 110. Then Canadian dollar per US dollar is this. So times 1 over this, that's for this, that would be 1.15. So if you solve for this, I expect you to have this. So fortunately for us, we have this now. We have this. It's been given to us. It is available. But we have successfully converted this to what we need, which is this. So if you solve for this, I expect you to have this. So this exchange rate implies that 1 Canadian dollar is equal to 95.6560 South African rand.